Hell breaks loose on the pro-Iran network after Trump turns the crisis into a direct test of international alignment. This Saturday, May 9, 2026, the most important development isn't in the attacks, the military bases, or the public statements. It's in the emergency diplomacy that is now unfolding around the Iranian regime. Tehran tries to present contacts with China, Russia, Saudi Arabia, European nations, and regional governments as a sign of strength, but the real interpretation is different. American pressure forced allies, low-profile partners, and fence-sitting governments to come out of the shadows. Those who used to shield Iran by staying silent now need to show themselves. You need to explain whether you are on the side of stability or on the side of a regime that has put its own survival above regional security. I'll tell you all about that in a moment, but right now you'll want to subscribe to the channel to stay well informed. Real-time information with the best journalistic quality you've ever seen. Milson Alves, the standard of credibility. Trump's political offensive has hit the most sensitive point of the Iranian structure. The external network that helps Tehran breathe when sanctions tighten, when isolation grows, and when the Revolutionary Guard tries to turn crisis into propaganda. Foreign Minister Abbas Araghiti appeared in a series of contacts with foreign governments, including talks with China and Saudi Arabia, amid Tehran's effort to avoid a broader diplomatic defeat. China's Ministry of Foreign Affairs confirmed that Wang Yi received Araghiti in Beijing on May 6, 2026. Iran itself also reported that Araghiti, while in Beijing, spoke by phone with Faisal bin Farhan, Saudi Arabia's foreign minister, to discuss the regional situation and try to keep channels open. Then, Tehran announced that the Iranian side understood that Trump's pressure is not aimed at just one facility, one vessel, or one statement. It targets the political protection system that has always allowed Tehran to advance, retreat, buy time, and then go back to provoking. That's why the calls multiplied. That's why Beijing opened its doors. What were they doing? Trying to prevent the crisis from getting out of control, and at the same time, trying not to burn themselves by siding with Iran in the eyes of the White House. The main point is that Trump forced the pro-Iran network into an uncomfortable choice. For years, many governments treated Tehran as a manageable problem. They made mild criticisms, maintained business, opened parallel channels, and let the regime operate through intermediaries. Now, with tougher American pressure, that gray area has gotten smaller. The White House doesn't need everyone to declare support in public on the same day. It's enough to force each capital to reveal its calculus. Who denies a base? Who tries to mediate? Who runs to Beijing? Who talks to Tehran? Who calls for a pause? Who defends sanctions? Who prepares the naval mission? Who arrests suspects linked to the Revolutionary Guard? Each move becomes a piece of a new map, and this map shows who helps Iran, who fears Iran, and who wants to distance themselves before the cost rises. And Bahrain announced the arrest of 41 people accused of having ties to Iran's Revolutionary Guard. Bahrain is home to the regional headquarters of the US Fifth Fleet, and this arrest carries enormous political weight. It shows that the crisis is not limited to statements by foreign ministers. It has entered the domestic security realm of a Gulf monarchy, where any cell linked to the Iranian regime comes to be seen as a direct threat. Marco Rubio entered this crisis as the face of American pressure on allies who were trying to sit on the fence. In Rome, he stated that some European nations, citing Spain as an example, denied the United States the use of bases in an important mission related to the crisis with Iran. Rubio treated this as a problem that needs to be examined because the usefulness of the military alliance depends precisely on the ability to project forces when a contingency arises. The statement is important because it exposes the core of the new pressure. Trump is not just demanding support against Tehran. He is asking what expensive alliances, old bases, and military commitments are for if, at the decisive moment, some allies hold back American action. There lies the political hell for the pro-Iran network. Before, many governments could condemn Tehran in words and ease up on Tehran in practice. They could talk about peace while maintaining routes, channels, business ties, and tacit allowances. Now American pressure puts everything in the same frame. Trump is forcing each actor to pay the cost of their own choice. China appears as the biggest player in this network because it knows that Iran serves as a useful counterweight to American influence in the Middle East. But it also knows that getting too committed to Tehran can bring economic costs. For Trump, this has strategic utility. The rapprochement exposes the connection between Tehran and Beijing to the world, leaves less room for pretense, and puts China inside the crisis. Not as a neutral observer, but as a political sponsor of a regime under pressure. Saudi Arabia, on the other hand, acts with a different calculation. Riyadh talks to Tehran to prevent the crisis from further contaminating the region, but it doesn't want to bear the burden of an Iranian adventure. The conversation between Araghchi and Faisal bin Farhan shows that Iran needs to knock on the door of a regional power that has already been the target of its indirect influence for years. Saudi Arabia doesn't want to be dragged into a crisis created by the Revolutionary Guard, and this regional fear weakens Iran's fantasy of moral leadership in the Middle East. Europe faces its own contradiction. Some governments want to stay away from the war, but they also don't want to appear complicit in Iran's expansion. Rubio's statement about denied access to bases made this contradiction public. Spain and other nations that resist supporting American operations try to sell that position as prudence. This approach has historical precedent. In 1983, during Ronald Reagan's administration, the United States launched Operation Staunch, a worldwide diplomatic offensive to block the supply of weapons and military parts to Iran during the Iran-Iraq War. The goal was to prevent Tehran from continuing to receive equipment through indirect channels, especially parts related to American weaponry inherited from the period before the Islamic Revolution. According to the Iran Primer, the Reagan administration pressured other governments to stop arms sales. This story helps to understand the current moment. When Washington decides to attack Tehran's external network, the target is not just the regime within Iran's borders. The target becomes the intermediary, the supplier, the self-centered government, the bank, the port, the silent ally, and the diplomat who tries to give oxygen to the regime while pretending to be neutral. After the invasion of Ukraine in 2022, Russia saw selected banks removed from the SWIFT system by decision of the European Union and Western allies. A measure that hit Russia's financial capacity and showed how an international network can be cut off when Washington and its partners decide to turn political pressure into effective isolation. North Korea also faced a similar blow when the Banco Delta Asia case in 2005 led to the freezing of accounts linked to Pyongyang in Macau and made financial institutions fear contact with North Korean networks. These examples show the same logic. When the American power targets the network, the targeted regime doesn't just lose money or prestige, and allies start demanding guarantees that the regime can't deliver. That's what makes the current pressure so dangerous for Tehran. And Trump is turning that ambiguous message into evidence against the very network that was keeping the Iranian regime alive. I'm Milson Alves, an international affairs specialist, and my purpose is to keep you accurately informed every day. The news links are in the video description. Leave a like on this video, subscribe to the channel, and at the end, check out the comments so you can be even more engaged with the Milson Alves community.